How do you stop giving a fuck about what other people think of you? This is what we're going to talk about in this video, and this is a question that I got recently, and it's a current theme because one of our biggest fear, one of our biggest roadblock is the fear of what will people say, the fear of rejection, the fear of being humiliated, the fear of losing face. It's deeply ingrained in so many of us, and it's one of those roadblocks that prevent us from fully going after what we want, from fully transforming, morphing, and becoming the best version of ourselves. The challenge is that there is no straightforward way in how to stop giving a fuck, right? A lot of books have been written, a lot of videos have been made, a lot of posts on social media have been made, and a lot of people will simply giving the advice of, well, you just have to stop caring. You have to stop caring about what people say. And it's ironic because a lot of the time, the people who give you that advice are the people who care the most, who seek external validation the most. So in this video, what I want to do with you guys is I want to actually explain why do we actually care so much? Right? Where does it come from? Why is it so, spread out? And why is it such a deep fear in us to care, to be afraid of other people's opinion of us? Okay? And then we're going to look at practical ways. What can you actually do to kind of build that bulletproof, confidence, to be disliked, to not care, to say no, to put your need first, to do what needs to be done for the betterment of your own life. So we're going to look at practical ways of what you can do in your own life to do that. All right, let's go. If you're new on this channel, guys, thank you for being here, for watching. If you want to see more of this type of content, make sure you hit that subscribe button and help me grow this channel and community. All right, so let's go. Let's talk about why do we care so much? Why do we have so much fear of being rejected, fear of being seen, fear of public speaking, fear? All those fears, by the way, are related, and they all stem from the same thing. Ultimately, you have to understand that one of our deepest needs as human beings is the need to feel significant. Another word for that is important, special, unique, to have status. Okay? And if you look at your life right now, the decisions that you make, the goals that you have, the things you buy, the places you go, the people you surround yourself with, the places where you feel the best, it's because they all bring you a feeling of significance in a certain way. And every single one of us have tremendous amount of strategies and ways to get that significance. Okay, to receive that significance. Some are very healthy ways, some are not healthy ways. Okay, and when they're not healthy, it usually creates more long-term pain and just short-term gratification. Okay, so because of that need of significance, it also creates the opposite, because we live in a world of polarity. So because you crave the significance, what you also fear the most is the opposite: insignificance, being left alone, being rejected, being shameful, you're losing face, being vulnerable, being a piece of shit, being, basically belittled, right? And so we are constantly conflicted between, I want this, but I want to avoid that. But ironically, it's like, I want to do those type of things because I'm going to get that, that feeling of significance. I want to get in this relationship, but what if that other person leaves me? And then I end up heartbroken and alone, and it's not going to work out, and I trust again, and things happen again, right? So we are constantly being, conflicted between our deepest desire, that is often subconscious, and our deepest fear as well. So first, we have to understand that big element, that big driver force behind so many things of decisions and why we do what we do, if you are to be able to transcend that. Because it is possible to transcend that. Many people are doing it, okay? But it requires you to elevate your state of consciousness. You see, there is a factor that I see a lot when I work with my clients, and that I see a lot in my own personal life, okay? Because I'm not immune to other people's opinion and to fears and things like that. The higher your self-worth, the higher your self-esteem, the higher, the better, the greater your self-image. And I'm not talking about being narcissistic and ego-based, rooted confidence, right? I'm talking about real confidence, real self-esteem, real self-worth. The higher that self-worth, the more you become immune, the thicker your skin is, because the less importance you put on other people's opinion. That means other people are less on a pedestal. You give them less importance, because your system, your strategy of receiving significance, of meeting your need, of knowing your value, of knowing your worth is already met by inside strategies, inside belief, inside self-image. Okay? But when that is missing, and if you harbor a lot of insecurities, if you struggle with confidence, if you struggle with your self-esteem, if you struggle with your look, if you struggle with your current situation, if you feel ashamed of certain areas of your life, if you feel ashamed of where you are financially or in your job or in your relationship, all of these will become vulnerabilities that you will want to hide. Why? Because it makes you feel insignificant, bad, and you feel like that if other people know, they'll judge me, they'll attack me, they'll use it, right? So the ego becomes very defensive, very guarding. And so what it does is that it raises our fear and it puts more, guards around us. We become passive aggressive, we become distant, we become judgmental, and we create all those coping mechanisms just to reaffirm and make us feel better. That's why we have a lot of passive aggressive judgment, right? When other people have their shit together and they're successful or the relationship is going well or whatever is happening, we find a way to bitch about them, to judge them, to put them down, right? Even if you have a good comment, maybe you're taking a little slide at them sarcastically just to make yourself feel better because that is a need of significance. So it's very complex, that mechanism that our ego mind finds to, get that significance, and it's in every single thing that you do. We never escape that game. The reason why you go to Louis Vuitton or you go to big brand, even though maybe you cannot afford it, is because of how you would feel, how you would look, the social status of having that freaking bag that you cannot pay for. Okay? It's crazy, it's silly, but it's just to get that feeling. So you understand now why there's so many things that are dysfunctional, because as people rely on external things to make themselves feel good, feel important, to raise their self-worth, it actually exposes them and reinforces their insecurity, because without that, or with the lack of that, they become more insecure. So you see why focusing on your self-worth, focusing on your inner belief, on your inner insecurity, on your inner shame, on your inner, all those feelings and emotions that you harbor within yourself, or the things that you don't like within yourself, what Carl Jung would call your shadow aspect, needs to be integrated, because that will, transcend a lot of those hidden insecurities that you have. And as those hidden insecurities decreases and your self-worth increases, you start to have less and less fear. Now, this is the first element. So that's self-worth on yourself. The second element is taking action. And this is actually the what Ralph Waldo Emerson would say: do the thing you're afraid to do and you will have the power. Stop waiting to have the power for the fear to disappear until you do it, right? So there is a way you can immunize, so to speak, yourself through constant exposure. So it's like going to the gym or running. Yeah, first it sucks. You suck, you're not good, you struggle, you're out of breath, you can barely run. And after a while, you pick up your stamina, it becomes better, you go into a rhythm, you find your breath, your breathing, and all of these kind of things, and you start to build. So in the same way, if you can put yourself in situations where you say no to people, where you share your honest opinion, where you allow yourself to be seen, where you allow yourself to not care, even in special little small ways, right? Because one step away can take you a long way. What it does is that subconsciously it builds up evidence. Not only you're gonna get a little high because you're doing actually something you want to do, and progress in that sense equals happiness, right? So you're working on your self-worth at the same time, you're advancing in your life, you're progressing, but equally, what it does is that it builds evidence. So, oh, if I do it here, I can do it there, right? I've done that, I can do it there. So the more you replicate that, the more you kind of build that muscle, that thick skin that they call sometimes scales. You gotta just build a thick skin against rejection, right? And the more you do that, the easier it gets. That doesn't mean that the fear will never be there and will completely disappear forever. No, but it will be, you will become thinner and you'll have so much more power over it. And that's key, okay? And for example, I'm gonna give you some practical things you can do, okay? Because one of the greatest things I've done in my own personal life is going to Toastmaster. So if you never know, if you haven't heard of what Toastmaster is, it's basically a public speaking club where you go and you just work on your communication skills, right? Storytelling, communication, leadership, and all this kind of stuff. And it's amazing. It's a great place. And so what it does is that I always used to struggle with public speaking, but it's always something I wanted to do. I always wanted to be able to make this type of video, share my idea, share my thing, but also wanted to learn how to articulate, how to tell the story, how to take my ideas here that were kind of clear in my mind, but that just didn't make sense when I was speaking them out. So overcoming those fears, being in front of people, 20, 25, 30 people all the time, every single week, when you go to the meeting, what it does is that it builds your skills. So that is one way, through repetition, to going there, to building the skill, and to just facing your fear over and over and over and over again, you become comfortable, right? And what happens then is that you get public speaking opportunity, you start making workshops, you start doing master classes, you start doing trainings and seminars, right? So all of a sudden, those skills and that confidence that you got in that space, now you can expand. And as you start to do seminar with 60 and 70 people and more people, you start to build more resilience, more strength, more self-worth, and less caring other people's opinion. So this is one way you see how you can actually practically do it. But you gotta train yourself, because if you are afraid of talking to people, if you're afraid of the opposite sex, if you're afraid of being rejected, and working on your self-image and your self-worth is only gonna take you so far. What you want is results. So you're gonna have at some point to take that and go out there and put it to the test and face the fear. And this is when you're gonna get the real power. So my question for you is this: how can you find in your own way, in your own life, small ways that you can do daily or weekly to put yourself in those situations where you feel uncomfortable right now? Okay, maybe you actively talk to strangers, right? Maybe you want to talk to 3 strangers a week or 1 a day, whatever you go crazy, I don't know. But if you're afraid right now of talking to people, if you're afraid of sparking that conversation, of what will people say, maybe just stretch yourself by talking to people on the elevator, at the Starbucks line, wherever it may be. Okay, and I remember doing that a couple of years ago. Every time I would get a coffee, I was on a line or in the elevator, I would just say hi. I would just start something, right? And back then, I just remember how stressed out I was. I was just like, well, what am I gonna say next, right? Is it gonna get awkward? What's gonna happen next? But it's one of those things that just becomes natural, right? So if you do, you can train yourself, and this is how you can ultimately understand that you have the power to care less. But you gotta do those 2 things. You gotta build your inner resilience, your inner self-worth, knowing that your sense of significance must come from within as much as possible, okay? And then you gotta find practical way outside of this to teach yourself, to train yourself to become immune to that and to get that power over your fear. And if you can do that, and if you can train yourself in this practical way, I guarantee you that the result you're gonna see will be extraordinary. And this is why sales is one of the most powerful skills that people have, because nobody likes to do sales in the beginning, because it requires you to get hung up on, to be talked like shit on all the time, again and again, right? Or people just ghost you, or people not follow through. So you gotta eat shit a lot in sales. But what it does is that it builds all the skills we just talked about. But when people don't find that self-worth, it can also be very damaging, and that's why a lot of people don't stay in sales. So anyway, I'm rambling on here, but you get the gist. If you really want to overcome this fear, you got to be proactive about it. You got to do those 2 things. You got to understand, where do you get that significance externally? Where are those insecurities being leaked out and making you more fearful? And then work on those. And if you need help with that, you can go and book a coaching call, and we can expose those fears and build your self-worth at a high, healthy level, okay? And then you gotta go out there, take action, put yourself in situation, and face your fear. And when you do that, you will get the power. All right, guys, let me know what you think down in the comments. As always, if you like this type of video, make sure you hit the subscribe button. Help me grow this channel. I'll see you next time. Be well.